statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
This content that we cover, that we go over in these live spaces, do wind up on different platforms. I have a podcast. It's called Bitcoin Unleashed. I strongly encourage, if you find anything that I have to say of interest here today, that you go search out that podcast where you can get all of my talks on Bitcoin, and you can find Bitcoin Unleashed on YouTube. You can find Bitcoin Unleashed on Spotify, and Fountain App, and a variety of others. I really like Fountain App in particular because Fountain App allows me to take some of my long form talks and to create more digestible, smaller bite-sized clips. So on the Fountain App, you can, of course, you have the entire episode that might be an hour to an hour and a half or so, but you can also digest that 1.5 hours over certain clips. So we take the entire long form and divide it into more digestible clips that drill into specific themes. And I like that. The second thing I like about Fountain App is the fact that you can earn free Satoshis while you listen to me and any other podcast for that matter. And that is something that I think is a huge benefit that many people overlook, that will not last forever. It's the same way that free Bitcoin used to be passed out with these Bitcoin faucets. And it was very difficult to get people to even show up and to accept 50 free Bitcoin because the monetary unit applied to one Bitcoin at that time was insignificant. And so people didn't bother. And today we look back on history and realize that was a huge mistake. 50 Bitcoin is life-changing today. But at the time, many of the people that formed these free faucets, and I believe that Gavin Andresen was the first one. You can look this up. You can Google this, Bitcoin faucet, Gavin Andresen. And he had a hard time getting people to show up with an email address and a Bitcoin receive address just to receive 50 free Bitcoin. And today, every single one of you would find that to be one of the biggest gifts of your life. Well, I believe that the same thing is going to happen with Satoshis. Today, I can't get you to show up to Fountain App and receive free Bitcoin or free Satoshis just to listen to some Bitcoin content. I can't get you to do it. I see the numbers. You won't do it. Why? Because the monetary value from a US dollar perspective assigned to a Satoshi is insignificant, but it won't stay there. So many of you are making the very same mistake that thousands, if not tens of thousands of people made years ago, and you will regret it. That is my belief, and I'm sticking to it. So get over there, get over to the Fountain App, download the app on your iOS phone or your Android or whatever it is. Download the Fountain App, search for Bitcoin Unleashed, and start raising your level of sophistication regarding Bitcoin. It's, to the best of my ability, I should say, and earn some free Satoshis in the process. All right, guys. There's been quite a bit of talk regarding my recent post and showing on X.com, Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, me wearing sunglasses on the inside. And I made a joke about that today, that the reason why I incessantly do wear sunglasses, and I've been doing this for a very long time, actually, but it's to protect you, because I have Bitcoin laser eyes, and I don't want you to receive these 3-degree burns, baby. These laser eyes are hot, they're powerful, they're potent, and if they're cast on you without any form of protection, or if you haven't gotten yourself ready for it, you will be harmed. So I wear the glasses to protect you. But on a more serious note, guys, I've been a trader in the financial space. I've been a professional trader for the last 37 years. I started my career on Wall Street in December of 1986 at a time when we stared at monochrome screens all day long. And my entire adult life has been dedicated to scouring the earth for financial opportunities through the various different types of financial markets. I've spent my life in front of a screen that has created sensitive eyes that do cause some issues regarding headaches and things of that nature. And the sunshades do help in a very, very big way. And so that's one reason. A third reason is because I've got these great new Ray-Ban Meta glasses that really are like my headphones. I can listen to music, I can listen to podcasts, I can listen to YouTube videos, I can do my messages via email through the glasses, I can answer via text through the glasses and things of that nature. So I can take photos, I can take videos from the glasses, and that's only increased my use of glasses. So for any of you who had anything to say about my glasses, those are some reasons to chew on if that's what floats your boat. I was quite surprised to see such an interest regarding that. All right, guys, I've got something really, really fascinating to talk to you about. And it's something that I think a great many people are missing, including you. And because you are with me, because we are taking this journey together, I want you to know, I want us to share some of these ideas and these concepts, I just want to share my vision with you. I want you to understand that I, by no stretch of the imagination, do consider myself a Bitcoin expert, but I have spent well over 10,000 hours going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. I continue to do so. And the more I go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, the more inadequate I believe and feel that my overall knowledge of Bitcoin and what it has come to deliver for humanity is, how shallow it is. But so I've decided to step on this journey and to continue going down the rabbit hole, I decided to continue to raise my level of knowledge, information, sophistication regarding Bitcoin along with you. And I am likely to be wrong on a variety of things going forward, although throughout my career, I have to be honest with you, I am not known for being wrong very often. But one of the things I wanted to share with you is something that I believe that a lot of people are missing. And what exactly is that? I believe that for a period of time, the spot Bitcoin ETFs are out to steal Bitcoin's thunder. That is right. And in addition to that, I think they know it. And this is what I want to delve into today. So how are the spot Bitcoin ETFs that were approved, the 8 or 9 that were approved, how are these ETFs planning to steal Bitcoin's thunder? Let's talk about that. But before I really hit on that, I have to lay some groundwork down. Now, let's go. I want you to understand that I have this view of how things are likely to pan out with Bitcoin over the next 2 years. And I'd like to give you the basis for that view. I believe that we are in store for an historic 2-year period for Bitcoin. I believe that we are just beginning what will go down as one of the most interesting cycles and the most potent cycles in Bitcoin's history. You understand that Bitcoin has become the best performing asset the world has ever known in 15 years. It has become the 10th most valuable asset on planet Earth in 15 years. It has become the 16th most valuable currency in the world out of 200 currencies in 15 years. It is the most secure network human beings have ever had access to. And it's accomplished this basically as a baby. But I'm here to tell you that many people believe that Bitcoin's better days are behind it, but I believe its best days are in front of it. Because with all that it has already accomplished at this particular point, it's done so without two major things. Number one, it's done so without much adoption. Less than 0.5% of all human beings on Earth hold Bitcoin. Think about that. Less than not 1%, not 0.75%, less than 1/2 of 8 billion people actually hold Bitcoin, actually understand it as something valuable enough to hold. So with one, not even a pinch of salt worth of human adoption, Bitcoin has become the best performing asset on Earth, the 16th most valuable currency on the planet, the 10th most valuable asset the world has ever known. This is insane. With less than 0.5%, it's accomplished all of these things. How much more gas does it have left in the tank? Where is it going to be at 3% of all human beings holding it, 10% of all human beings having some form of access to it, 20%, 40%, 50%? How can one legitimately, intelligently say, oh, well, Oliver, the best years of Bitcoin are behind it with less than 0.5% adoption? It's impossible to say that Bitcoin's performance has peaked at 0.5%. It doesn't even freaking make sense. That shouldn't even make sense to someone that has an IQ that is sub 80. That someone with an IQ of less than 80 should understand that it can't be downhill from here. It can't be that we've seen the best with 0.5%. It just doesn't make sense. So I'm here to tell you that Bitcoin's best days are in front of it. But despite everything that is accomplished, you ain't seen nothing yet. Nothing. That Bitcoin, to use a sports analogy, hasn't even gotten out of the car in the stadium's parking lot before the game. It hasn't even gotten out of the car yet, much less entered the stadium to get dressed for the game. It hasn't even gotten out of the car yet. It hasn't even turned the car off to open the door to get out of the car to then go into the stadium to get dressed and prepare and warm up for the game. We are not even at first base, to use a baseball analogy. We're in the parking lot, in the car, and the car hasn't even been turned off yet. And I believe that it's asinine to say or to believe, to think that, oh, well, there's diminishing returns going forward. How? With less than 0.5% of the world having been adopted. So Bitcoin has accomplished this with no adoption. Imagine that. And just minuscule ups, minuscule bumps to the upside in global adoption, which you know is going to happen, is going to send this thing into the frickin' stratosphere. Do you understand? From a US dollar perspective. And so 0.5% adoption is not going the other way, people. It's not going to 0.25% of 1%. It's going up from here. There's only up from here. Adoption doesn't go the other way. It's a one-way directional thing. That's what adoption is, straight up. So Bitcoin has accomplished all of these things. It has outpaced every asset known to man. It has outpaced everything in existence with 0.5% adoption. So it has done this without much adoption whatsoever. It has also done this without demand, which sort of goes hand in hand with adoption, doesn't it? There has never been real demand for Bitcoin. And I can't believe that I get pushback by some Bitcoiners on this. Oliver, what do you mean there's never been demand for Bitcoin? How could Bitcoin go up? It's gone up without demand. If you think Bitcoin has experienced demand, you are living your life on Bitcoin Twitter, and that's a problem. Now, I've actually been living a good portion of my life for this period of time on Bitcoin Twitter, but I have a specific plan and an end date, which I've shared with you. I'm not doing this forever. But I will tell you this, Bitcoin has never had demand. How can 0.5% be considered demand? Really? Seriously, Mr. Einstein? That's what you call demand? 0.5% of the entire world is what you call demand. Bitcoin has never freaking had demand. It has only had the supply side to work with. Every 4 years, Bitcoin goes through every 4 years, which on average, which is really every 210,000 Bitcoin blocks, there is a halving that takes place. Its issuance gets cut in half. Some people refer to the issuance as its discovery rate gets cut in half. Some people refer to it as its inflation rate gets cut in half. Many of you who've been following me for any period of time, you understand that I do not like that term inflation. Bitcoin doesn't have inflation. It has issuance. It has discovery. If I start off with 21 shoes in a shoe store, and I sell 19 of them, I did not inflate the supply of 21 shoes. I issued or sold 19 of the existing shoes. Inflation is something you apply to something that has an unknown supply number. When you know the supply number, it has an issuance rate of that supply number, not an inflation rate. I'm tired of hearing that. The point I'm trying to drive home here is the fact that Bitcoin has only had the ability, it has only had the supply side to work with. Every 210,000 blocks, roughly 2 years based on 10-minute blocks, roughly every 4 years, based on 10-minute blocks, the issuance rate gets cut in half. Today, right now, on average, every 10 minutes, Bitcoin 6.25 new Bitcoin is discovered or issued. Sometime in April, that issuance rate gets cut to 3.125 Bitcoin every 10 minutes on average. So we go from roughly 900 Bitcoin per day to roughly 450 Bitcoin per day. And so if the demand for Bitcoin, the little bit of demand that it had from this 0.5% of the world, if that demand doesn't go down by half, and if the little demand doesn't go down by half, but the supply goes down by half, boom, it's a freaking guaranteed rocket to the upside, just the halving. If the demand, the little bit of demand that Bitcoin had from this 0.5% of this half of 1% of the world's population, if this little demand inched up a little bit, it's a double freaking rocket. And if the little bit of demand goes to not being so little, it's so crazy that it's beyond anything that we can imagine. So Bitcoin has accomplished all that it has. It has broken every single record, every single metric we have ever applied to anything without demand. But get this, 2024, here comes the demand. OMG. You've got some of the biggest holders of wealth on planet Earth, biting, scratching, fighting, gobbling up thousands of Bitcoin every single day. and it's not going to stop for the foreseeable future. Here comes demand, which Bitcoin never had. Now you add a continual halving of the supply, which already created the best performing asset in the history of human mankind. You add the demand side to that, and it's freaking stupefying. Do you understand this? There's no words that can really contain the power of this when you bring the demand side to it. But I'm here to tell you, starting in 2024, here comes the demand. All right. And so what am I trying to tell you here? I am trying to map out the theses, my theses for why I believe the next 2 years is going to set records for even Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin has set records for everything else. It's beat everything else. I think Bitcoin starts beating its own record, has no other competition, right? And I think it starts now. That's right, now, 2024, 2025. And so let's go over my reasons for this. Number one, FASB rule change. Now, those of you who are not part of the financial world or don't have an accounting background, you might not understand the enormity of this. But the FASB is this organization that governs how companies in America can account for their businesses. And so prior to this new FASB rule change, companies were not really encouraged by accounting rules to hold Bitcoin on their balance sheets. It was detrimental to their bottom line, the way the accounting rules forced them to account for Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Michael Saylor just bucked the trend and said, I don't give a hoot. I'm doing it anyway, but not many companies would be willing to take a hit to the bottom line of their companies, especially as publicly traded companies, without this FASB rule change. Well, FASB finally relaxed the rules and made it beneficial to hold Bitcoin on your balance sheet. This is going to unlock another part of that. I'll say it again. Here comes the demand from corporations that are watching Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy almost freaking take over the corporate world. Do you know every single company, every single country, every single president of every single country, every single governing body is watching Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy? You don't think they are doing that? And with this FASB rule change, they can also now start doing the same without it being a detrimental hit to the bottom line of their corporations. Here comes corporate demand. So FASB rule change number one is going to add rocket fuel to 2024, 2025, like we've never seen before. In my view, this is the basis of my thesis. This is my thesis. Number two, spot Bitcoin ETFs. 10 years of trying to get these things approved, and boom, it happens in 2024, at the beginning of 2024. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the SEC likes to, when it's a very important ETF, they like to sort of approve these things either at the end of 1 year or the very beginning of 1 year. And so at the beginning of 2024, just a week or so, just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, boom, 8-9 spot ETFs get approved. And this adds the, wait a minute, here comes the demand. We have now entities there with the only purpose is to do nothing else but to buy Bitcoin. Are you freaking kidding me? Their whole existence is just to buy Bitcoin. Now, some people say, well, Oliver, they have to sell Bitcoin too. Yeah, but not so much. It's like 80-20. Their 80% of their entire existence is just simply going to be buying Bitcoin. How frequently? Every goddamn day of their lives. Do you understand the enormity of this, people? Every single day of their entire lives, they will be buying Bitcoin, which means there is an institutional bid for Bitcoin every single day that never existed in the 15-year history of Bitcoin. Are you freaking crazy? Are you freaking getting me? Are you picking up what I'm laying down here, guys? This is insane. Bitcoin has never had the demand side. And to bring the demand side this big, this powerful, is mind-boggling to me. To bring it on the corporate side so that companies can mimic what MicroStrategy is doing by changing the FASB rule. Here comes the corporate demand. Then to allow spot Bitcoin ETFs to be approved, and their only purpose is to buy every single day of their existence and to give the institutional world an efficient way to gain access to the economic benefits of Bitcoin through the spot Bitcoin ETF. Oh my God. Here comes the institutional demand, which it never had. FASB rule change, corporate demand. Balance sheet demand. Spot Bitcoin ETFs, institutional demand. And then there's the halving, which is slated to happen in April of this year, where now all of this demand is buying thousands of Bitcoin every single day, a force that never existed in all of Bitcoin's history, a new force, a new demand, a new multi-thousand Bitcoin per day force in the market, and the supply is about to be cut in half. OMG. And you think that Bitcoin's best days are behind it? Where did you go to school? How could you think that? How low does the IQ scale go? I've never been down there. I don't see how you can think this. It's crazy. Now, it should be no surprise to anyone listening to me here today that 2022 saw an unprecedented period of quantitative tightening by the Federal Reserve of the United States. That interest rates were hiked faster than they had ever been hiked in history. Tightening had occurred at an unprecedented rate. So much so that many people thought that that was extraordinarily dangerous and would break the fragile traditional monetary system. But we're done with that. And I am telling you that as certain as night follows day, that 2024 will see a reversal of interest rate levels. The Federal Reserve is going to pivot in 2024. Maybe it doesn't happen in March. Maybe it happens in May, June, whatever, but they're pivoting. And the spigot into Bitcoin is going to gush, I believe, like you've never seen before. So we've got the FASB rule change, the ETFs, which the FASB rule changes bring corporate demand, which it never had. The ETFs, which bring institutional demand, which it never had. The halving, which it is the only thing that it's had, but at a time where this brand new demand that never existed is now at the doorstep coming in. You have a year where interest rates are going to start being rolled back, making money looser, freer to flow into Bitcoin. And of course, you have presidential election year, which, as we know, US presidential elections happen in the beginning of November of every single year. And I do not believe that Satoshi, in all of his wisdom, her wisdom, their wisdom, its wisdom, whatever Satoshi Nakamoto was or is, I don't think that was a mistake to time the halvings with the US presidential years to make sure that it happens months before the US presidential election. I think that Satoshi Nakamoto was so precise, so accurate, so calculating in his design around the discovery of digital scarcity that nothing was by chance, that nothing was a mistake. We know what happens during presidential election years. Things start getting moved around, shuffled around to create a rosier picture to get the incumbent reelected again. This is only going to make the flow into Bitcoin more accommodative. All the stars and all the planets have aligned here, people. And if you think half of 1% demand is going the other way, I'm sorry, I have to say it. You are dumb. I have to say it. I'm sorry. You're dumb if you think that. You think with all these things lined up, it's going the other way? You are dumb. My dad used to say, Oliver, never underestimate the power of dumb. Dad, I now fully understand what you were trying to tell me. That's dumb. And so I believe that this decade sets all-time records for not beating every other asset. Bitcoin's already done that. Second place is so far behind, it's not even in the race. Do you understand? So Bitcoin doesn't have anything to prove regarding another asset. There is no other asset. Bitcoin can now only compete with itself, with its past. And I think it freaking blows its past away this decade. And so if I were you, just in case I'm right, I'd get myself some. What does all of this mean? This leads me to my next point. I believe, this is my belief, it is not financial advice. I can't give you financial advice. But what I can do is share with you with what my framework is. And I'm here to tell you that Bitcoin's going to all-time new highs. This year, not next year, not next decade, this year, 2024, we will see all-time new highs. That's my view, and I'm sticking to it. You can record this. You can take a note. You can save it to come back at me. In fact, I freaking encourage you to do so. We will see all-time new highs in Bitcoin this year. You're not going to have to wait for this. This year, it's a freaking stone's throw away. In fact, I wouldn't be our all-time high is around 69,000 and change. I wouldn't be surprised to see us take out $100,000 per Bitcoin with ease this year. With ease. Hold me to it. I dare you to. Hold me to it. I can take it. Well, Oliver, what's going to happen if you're wrong? Let's not even think. I'm not going to be wrong. That's how confident I believe I am. I believe myself to be. New highs this year, perhaps blowing past 100,000. This year, not next year, 2024. We haven't even started on 2025 yet. Let's go there. 2025 will put, in my view, 2024 to shame. 2024 will be the warm up at all-time new highs. 2025 is going to make 2024 look like a little tiny insignificant baby. This is my thesis. This is my view. This is my framework, and I'm sticking to it. The prices from a US dollar perspective that you see with Bitcoin today are so insignificant that many of you are erroneously trapped in the weeds. You're monitoring every little wiggle and jiggle. There is no difference between 50,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. This is the same as considering, oh, well, wait a minute, it's 43 cents. Maybe I should wait for it to go down to 41 cents. That's just being mentally challenged, in my opinion. And I'm not going to make fun of the mentally afflicted. Not right now. I'm not above it. I will, but not today. I would, if I had my wish, I would pull many of you out of the weeds. I see it in my comments here. You're mired in minutia that just doesn't freaking matter. Do you understand? You're worried about things that are so insignificant in the grand scheme of things. And some of you have gone so far as to focus more attention on your silly little technical indicators. Overbought, oversold. I see it pulling back. It's gotten ahead of itself. Dot, 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 dot. Dude, freedom doesn't get ahead of itself. Let's stop it. This is freedom. Freedom is never overbought. You don't put stochastics and RSI indicators on freedom. This is not like any other asset out there you're trying to technically trade. You're getting this wrong. Let me just say this. People, this is your only shot. And you're fortunate enough to have it. I'm here to tell you, I'm sorry if this disappoints you, but you don't have any other shots. There is nothing else available on planet Earth that is going to give you a shot. You have nothing else. There is only one choice. You don't have another shot at changing your bloodline, changing your family's future forever. Do you understand? You don't have anything else that's going to do that. This is your only shot. And some of you are fucking it up. The only shot you will ever have at generational wealth, the only shot of changing your family's trajectory forever, you have it, not people born in your family 10 years from now. They will look back and call you an idiot because they will know my uncle had the opportunity. My grandfather had the opportunity. My father had the opportunity. He was too dumb to see this. They're going to judge you. We are unique. And we are extraordinarily fortunate amongst the human race because we are living at a time where you can buy this for shitty US dollars, for shitty euro, for shitty Japanese yen, renminbi. Are you freaking kidding me? There's going to be a point in the future where nobody with Bitcoin is going to accept that bullshit. Like, I'm going to give you the most valuable thing in the world for what? A piece of paper with a number painted on it? Get out of here with that nonsense. That's the world we're moving to. And some of you are messing this opportunity up, mired in the weeds, worried about every little tiny thing. But Oliver, what happens if the aliens arrive and cut off the internet and take all of our Bitcoin? Let's say, well, we've got way more problems than Bitcoin, don't we? What if a meteorite shower destroys planet Earth, Oliver? Freaking mired in the weeds. You're finding every single excuse not to act. And that's what the majority of human beings do today. You see, the human race today is soft on average. They're not always soft, but we're in the soft phase of the human being cycle right now. Human beings go through cycles just like Bitcoin has its own cycle. Everything has cycles in life. There's a strong cycle for human beings. There's a courageous cycle, a strong and independent cycle for human beings. And then there's a freaking soft cycle. And we're in the soft cycle. People just would rather make any excuse not to act, not to move, to stand still, to say, where I am is okay. You're messing this up. And you only get one shot at this. We're the only ones right now with a shot at this. And all the human beings that are going to be born after us forever will never have the opportunity we have today. Never in a million years. There will be history books about us written, and people will be reading these history books or listening to these history books or getting them downloaded by chip in their freaking heads. Wow, people lived during the time where they man-made pieces of paper were accepted for Bitcoin? Really? It's not going to last, guys, I'm telling you. 2025 is the rocket ship year. Oh, 2024 is going to be impressive, all-time new highs, in my opinion, and perhaps blow past 100,000 with ease. But 2025, you're going to need your spacesuit on. This is my thesis. This is my view. I'm not giving you financial advice, but this is what my personal framework is, and I'm sharing it with you. 2025, Bitcoin becomes the most valuable asset on planet freaking Earth outside of gold. Gold, which is currently roughly around $3.6 trillion asset. Well, who freaking knows how much gold really is? That's what they tell us, right? Nobody knows how many ounces of gold exist. Nobody knows where every drop of gold is, how much is found on an hourly basis, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, how much has been lost. Nobody freaking knows that. We don't even know how much gold the U.S. government holds in Fort Knox, or if there is any gold at all. We don't know. That's a farce as far as I'm concerned. And that's why I'm always saying Bitcoin is going to be the most valuable asset in the world, in my opinion, in 2025. It might even happen in 2024, but I think 2025 is a shoo-in. And that's when it takes out Microsoft or Apple or whoever else is in that number one spot. It's now Microsoft. Microsoft has overtaken Apple as the most valuable company, valuable asset outside of gold on planet Earth. It's taking Microsoft out in 2025, or whoever's in that spot at the time. And so I ask you, what do you sell the most valuable asset on planet Earth for? Do you know how many people are going to wake up to this? Do you know how many people are going to wake up to the fact that I can't not have some exposure to the most valuable asset on planet Earth? Guess what was the most valuable? Guess what was the most owned asset on planet Earth? for a long while. Apple, why? Because it's number one. It was the most valuable asset on earth outside of gold. Therefore, it was the most owned asset on planet Earth outside of gold. And so when Bitcoin becomes the most valuable asset outside of gold, it will ultimately become the most held asset on planet Earth outside of gold, which means that their demand's going to have to go through the roof, sending the USD dollar denominated price into the stratosphere. You can't not have exposure to the most valuable thing on planet Earth. No fund manager no mutual fund can have zero exposure to Apple for the last decade. It's impossible. No index cannot have exposure to it. Do you understand? You'll never get fired for owning Apple. Over the last 10 years, you'd never get fired for holding Apple in your portfolio. That's going to be Bitcoin. So the world is still short the upside in Bitcoin because they have to buy when it becomes the most valuable asset in the world. You have to. It's just a rule. I don't make the rule, but it is a rule. You just have to. Every financial organization, every mutual fund, every index is going to have some exposure to Bitcoin. Here comes worldwide demand. OMG. So listen to me carefully. I have said all of that to say this. I know it was long. I'm sorry. Apologize. I can get winded and very excited about this. I'm actually glad you can't see me by video. But I've said all that I've said thus far. How long have I been talking? I've said a long time, actually. I've said all of that to say this, to come to this point. These meteoric years, 2024, 2025, this record-breaking period, what I believe will be a record-breaking period, this dramatic ascent, the shocking of the world by Bitcoin in 2024 and 2025. The credit for this is going to go to BlackRock and Fidelity and maybe Franklin and maybe Bitwise and the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Listen to me, people. Bitcoin is not going to get the credit for its spectacular return going forward here. Bitcoin is not going to actually be looked at as the cause for the wealth creation, for the meteoric rise. Everyone is going to say it's because the institutions came. The institutions saved Bitcoin. This has only happened because of BlackRock. It's only happened because of Fidelity. It's only happened because Wall Street came in. And all of your shitcoiners are going to say, yeah, without the institutional sponsorship, Bitcoin would have been dead. Bitcoin only got saved by Wall Street. Bitcoin got saved by BlackRock. That's what you're going to hear. That's the next narrative. And Wall Street's going to gobble it up and let it happen. They know this. They know they're going to get the credit. They're going to ride Bitcoin's coattails. They're going to pretend like it was them. Why? Because they need you coming to them. They need you believing that you need them to access Bitcoin. You want these numbers? You want this explosive growth? You want this generational wealth potential? You got to come to us. Look at what we did to Bitcoin. Look at what we did to the price. Look at what happened to Bitcoin after we stepped in. Bitcoin never did this. Look, we did it. And they almost have to do this, people. Do you know why? It's a survival thing. Oh, yeah, that's right. They need this. They need Bitcoin. If you ever think for a second that Bitcoin needs institutions, that Bitcoin needs freaking ETFs, it beat everything in the world without ETFs. It beat everything in the world without humans adopting it in large mass. It beat everything in the world without corporations holding it. So Bitcoin didn't need FASB. Bitcoin didn't need interest rate monetary policy to be a certain way. Bitcoin didn't need spot ETFs to be approved to beat every single record, every single metric on planet Earth. Bitcoin doesn't need Wall Street. Wall Street needs Bitcoin. They need alpha. Why? TradFi. The TradFi financial industry is in trouble. That's right. They're in trouble. They're in trouble because, in my opinion, this decade, the decade that we're in and going into the next decade, inflation will be sticky, in my opinion. It will come back intermittently and cause a problem. And inflation causing a problem puts them at risk. And I'll tell you why. Why is inflation a risk to the TradFi industry today when you have Bitcoin as an alternative saying, hi, I'm over here. Look at me with the best record on planet Earth. Why is Bitcoin a threat in an environment where inflation becomes sticky? Why can Bitcoin potentially collapse the whole TradFi investment world in an inflation sticky environment? In a sticky inflation environment? I'm going to tell you why. It's all tied to the average gains of these TradFi assets. Let's go over the average gains over the past 10 years of all the TradFi assets, shall we? Yes, let's do it. So let's take an historical look at equities. Equities, despite how much press they get and attention they get, stock market, which has been a part of my world for 43 years. All right. This is my realm, my specialty. The average annual gain over my entire lifetime, even before my lifetime, the average annual gain of equities is 9.8%. 9.8%. Bitcoin can do that in an hour. 9.8% annualize over my lifetime. I want you to think about that. And get this, that's with dividends included. That's with dividends reinvested in the companies that's including all the companies that pay a dividend, assuming that the dividend repurchases you. You don't take the dividend, but all the dividends that the entire market produces, you purchase more stock with it. So with dividends reinvested, it's 9.8% a year. Bitcoin can destroy that in a day. If you take dividends out, it's 7.5% annualized over my entire lifetime. 7.5% without dividends. 9.5% with dividends. Reinvested. Oh, you think that's low? Let's go to real estate. Now, I know that this can be very different in certain pockets, but I am just talking about on average. Real estate has delivered over my lifetime 6% gains. 6%. When you factor in taxes and interest rate costs, mortgages and repairs, and depreciation and wear and tear, and 6% net return. Crazy. Let's go to bonds. We have to go down lower, 4% over my lifetime. 4% annual returns for bonds. 4 measly percent. Golds, this was my baby, guys, from the 1990s into 2000, actually all the way to 2021, I should say. I got out of my gold positions in 2021 and dumped every single penny from the liquidation of my gold positions into Bitcoin in 2021. But I had it from the 1990s and piled into the gold spot ETFs right on social media. Some of you can go back and search me pounding the table the same way I'm pounding the table on Bitcoin for you in 2005. Now, you might not find these posts until 2006, 7 or whatever, because that's when Meta or Facebook started to gain some traction. But anyway, the point I'm trying to say is that gold's one of my babies, 1.3% over the past 10 years. It's crazy. 1.3%. So you got equities delivered 9.8%. Real estate on average 6%. I know everybody in the real estate gets angry with me. Oh, Oliver, well, I'm part of this area. It's certainly it's something like 20%. I'm not talking about the outliers. Every data set has outliers. We're not talking about the outliers. I'm talking about overall 6% after everything, net 6% gain annualized in real estate market. That's nothing. Bonds 4%, gold 1.3%, and cash -7%. And I think that's understating your cash position. You are leaking value holding cash. -7%. And that's a conservative number. Now, when you take these numbers into account, there's only a few of them that outpaces inflation, or that has historically outpaced inflation. Because if you're not staying ahead of inflation, and let's not even talk about, there are two forms of inflation. There's monetary debasement and there's price inflation. But one is the cause of the other, of course. But my point is that gold hasn't outperformed inflation. Cash doesn't outperform your inflation rate. So you're becoming poorer holding cash. Because the cost of goods and the cost of living your life goes higher. You're losing wealth. It's like having a boat with a leak in it. Gold has been like holding a boat with a leak in it. People say, well, no, it's held its value. No, it hasn't. Not when you incorporate inflation. And let's not even talk about monetary debasement, money printing. It has performed terribly over the past 10 years. In that regard, bonds have not held up with inflation. And so the only two things you've had are real estate and equities that have done okay with outpacing the diminishing wealth effect of inflation. It's been real estate and equities and stocks. But that's with inflation, a stated inflation of around 2% or less. You start to bring in an inflation rate that gets sticky around 4, 5, 6. And I know it's higher than that. We know it's higher than that. I'm just going off the stated numbers. Now you start to make, well, wait a minute. Equities on average garner 10% with dividends reinvested, and inflation is 7. I'm making a net 3%. And I've got Bitcoin over here with a cumulative average growth rate of a 213% a year. When you have this alternative that starts waving at you, it puts every single thing else at risk. I sold all of my gold to go into Bitcoin. I sold all of my Amazon to go into Bitcoin. I sold 95% of Apple, which I held from 1997, to go into Bitcoin. I sold 50% of my Nvidia, which I held from 2010, to go into Bitcoin recently. Do you think I'm the only one leaving? Do you think I'm the only one? Do you think I'm the only one who's seeing that there's no freaking comparison? What the heck am I doing? The average annual gain for the NASDAQ over the past 10 years, the star of all TradFi, is 16.1%. Do you know what Bitcoin did over the past 10 years? 400,000%. 16%, 400,000%. The annualized CAGR is 213%, 16%, 213%, 16%, 213%. Oliver, which one are you going to choose, Oliver? 16%. And that's 16% is out of the norm and will not last. Do you understand? That's an anomaly. That's an outlier period for equities. That's not going to be repeated, guys. I'm telling you, it's not. You're going to revert right back to the mean, 9, 10%. Maybe the NASDAQ 12, 13%. That's it. And Bitcoin is about to go into the stratosphere and break the records it already broke. It's going to break its own records. Why? Because here comes the demand. Remember that? Which it never had. It killed everything in TradFi without demand. Now the demand's coming. You ain't seen nothing yet. And the world is going to increasingly understand this. You're going to increasingly get more Olivers that sell out of their gold for Bitcoin, that sell out of some of their core holdings. Guys, I had Microsoft in 1994, Apple in 1997, Amazon in 2003, gold in 2005, the early part of 2005 as far as the ETF is concerned, NVIDIA in 2010, Meta in 2015, whenever it went public, down below $20 when it was Facebook. I have weaned out of all of those core positions. For what? I'm not the only one. I'm not the first. I am certainly not going to be the last. There will be more micro sailors of the world. There will be only an increasing number of micro strategies in the world. There will be an increasing number of Oliver Velez's in the world. And you can see it in their movements. They have an outright literal war amongst themselves, these institutions, the holders of 80% of the globe's wealth is fighting. They're in an outright dirty war with each other for first and second place in this space. Bitcoin, a year ago, which one of you would have imagined a $1 trillion Wall Street wealth manager putting laser eyes on their profile picture? You? Yeah, right. Me? No, never. If you told me that was going to happen last year, I wouldn't have believed you. If you told me that these firms would start to put Bitcoin memes out on X.com and Bitcoin Twitter, I wouldn't have believed you. If you told me there was going to be an outright war where they actually spend $100 million or more putting out commercials about Bitcoin, Wall Street, the top ones of all, I wouldn't have believed you. The writing is on the wall in your freaking face. But too many of you are mired in the weeds. You're focused on bullshit. You're majoring in minor things, and the major things are in your face. And you're worried about the stochastics is overbought. Really? Oh, Oliver, the death cross. You're following these bozos calling for 12,000 Bitcoin. Guys, come on. Even if it happened, it'd be only a gift. I want you to understand that every single day There are 8 companies that hold the vast majority of the entire world's wealth in the TradFi system. 8 of them with one mission: to raise the amount of Bitcoin they have, and you're selling. Wow. Oh my God. Like, I don't know if there's a level of dumb. I don't know of a level of dumb that low. And they're doing it in your face. Their specific purpose is to raise the number of Bitcoin they have every single day for the foreseeable future, and you're selling. Holy shit. It's only so low I can go on the intelligence totem pole, guys. The oxygen runs out for me down there. But guys, it's exciting. As this is, I am telling you, it's nothing compared to what's coming in 2028 to 2032. Oh yeah, 2024 is going to be exciting. 2025 is just going to be freaking amazing if what I believe is going to happen happens. And I do believe it convincingly so. It's going to be mind-boggling in ways, in my opinion. But 2028 to 2032, those are the real generational, life-changing years. Only if you can hold on, though. Most of you will mess it up. Most of you won't hold on. Most of you get swiped and you'll get mired in the weeds again. You'll be listening to these bozos that say it's over, climactic top, and all of this stuff. And as sad as it is, most of you are going to miss out on the real powerful period. That's 2028 to 2032. Now, I have a special group of Bitcoiners that I spend time with, and this is what we focus on. I'm focused on 2028 to 2032. I'm focused on making sure that every single one of them, their name will live forever through their family line, that everyone will remember their name. There will be pictures on the walls of them in living rooms 20, 30, 40 years from now. They will be worshipped because they did what they needed to do to reposition their family in the new world. I believe that period is 2028 to 2032. And OMG, if you can last. My father used to say, Oliver, in order to win in this world, he used to tell me at the dinner table hundreds of times, guys, it's freaking boring. Dad, not again. Yes, again, Oliver. Listen, Oliver, he used to say. In order to win in this world, you're going to have to last. He used to tell me this over and over and over again at the dinner table. In order to win, Oliver, you must last. He says, you don't even have to have talent to last, Oliver. Just last, because you know why? You will wind up being close to number one because most people can't last. Most people won't last. Most people don't last. And just by virtue of you not going away, just by virtue of you not quitting, just by virtue of you staying put, you're going to wind up somewhere near the top, Oliver. Oliver, are you listening to me? In order to win in this world, you're going to have to last. Outlast everyone, Oliver. This is what he used to preach to me at the dinner table. And then he would go on and he would say, Now, if you add, you don't even have to have any talent. As long as you last, you will wind up somewhere near the top because everyone's going to drop out at some point in the future. So just last, Oliver. But I will tell you this. If you add just a little bit of talent, if you add just a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of education, a little bit of information, a little bit of skill, you'll take over the world, Oliver. You see, you'll wind up somewhere near number one if you last with nothing. But if you add something to the lasting, you will take over the world. These are the lessons of my dad at the dinner table. And I share them with you today because they are so applicable to the plight that we all find ourselves connected to Bitcoin today. I am here to tell you, just like my dad told me, if you want to be somewhere close to number one for your family in the future, in the new world that is shaping itself in front of our eyes, you are going to have to last. It is unfortunate and sad that most of you will not last. But those of you who do, you will stand to inherit the brand new earth. But if you add just a little bit of knowledge, just a little bit of extra sophistication, if you go down this rabbit hole and truly understand why you're lasting, what you're lasting for, you truly get the fact that this is freedom and this is going to change the way human beings exist forever in the future. You're going to take over the world. That is my belief, and I'm sticking to it. The institutions are going to temporarily steal Bitcoin's thunder. The 2024 run, the 2025 run the credit is going to be given to Wall Street. But in the period of 2028 to 2032, the world's going to know. The world's going to wake up and they're going to know it has nothing to do with Wall Street. It has nothing to do with spot Bitcoin ETFs. This has nothing to do with a nation state. This has nothing to do with the United States, China, Japan, Europe. This has nothing to do with anyone. This is Bitcoin and Bitcoin itself. And I want some. I don't want to have to go through a corporation to get access to it. I want it myself. 2028 to 2032 is global wake up period. And if you think that what I'm saying about 2024 to 2025 is impressive, I am here to tell you, based on my view, my vision, what I see, 2028 and 2032 is going to change the globe. Bitcoin single-handedly is going to change everything. But you've got to last. And so my question here for you today is, do you have what it takes to last? I love you all, guys. Thank you very much for showing up. I apologize for not being able to take any of your questions. I will get to some of your questions if you want to type them out in the comments here below. I'll be glad to do that at some point throughout the rest of the evening. But I do have to run. I want to thank every single one of you who've taken the most valuable commodity you have outside of Bitcoin, which is your time, and given it. And I appreciate you giving it here to me. If you found anything I have to say of value, of interest, please search out Bitcoin Unleashed, Spotify, YouTube, Bitcoin Unleashed on Fountain app, earn some free sats, get over there, take in all the talks. Let's walk this journey together. All right. Until then, you know what to do. Go to work, people. Go to work and try to last. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there. And until next time. Boom!